Directional tree felling and moving heavy limb sections. William Hovey Smith, 2015.
Okay, it's climbing up like it should. Shortly it'll start putting some real tension on that tree. So even though I'll be pulling toward me, there's still plenty of room for it to clear me in the truck.
Working dead timber is particularly dangerous because you can have a limb or even a section of a standing straight up tree fall because of a nesting cavity that you don't see somewhere well up the trunk of the tree. So it's good to use winches and cables and stuff to pull down this stuff rather than standing right beside it unless you're fairly sure that the tree is sound.
And well away from the truck. Now I'll just be spooling it back up on this spool here, and we will move the truck out of the way. So this is as much as we're going to do with it. You may recall an earlier video where we were stymied by this tree limb across our trail to our food plot where we're putting in a 300-yard range. Well, we have a new chain on our chainsaw now. So this thing really cuts. And I'll show you that in just a second. So in the meantime, we have used our bush hook to trim off the limbs, our handyman jack here to lift the tree to break it from time to time, a wedge and an axe to work up this tree. And we have one section of it already on our little cart to take down to the food plot. This wood is so dense and so heavy, I dare not load more than one sort of shortish piece on this cart at the time. So consequently, I'm going to have to cut it up into some slightly smaller pieces. So I'm going to start this saw and show you what it looks like when it really cuts. A couple of things I'll attempt to show you here is how you manhandle a huge block of wood that you cannot lift. Right now I can lift with difficulty something that weighs on the order of 100 pounds. And this weighs probably 250 pounds. So how in the world do I move it? Well, the fact is you don't pick it up. You roll it, you twist it, you lift one end, you leave some of it on the ground and pivot rather than trying to physically pick it up, walk it over, and put it in the trailer. And we'll hopefully show you that right now. Another problem with cutting limbs this size is when you get down, somehow that limb is probably going to bind the saw. So when you start feeling it just beginning to stick, what you do is you cut a wedge like this out of the wood itself. That gives you more space down here in the bottom. That way you'll be able to get a deeper cut and probably even cut the limb. Although if you try to cut it all the way down with a limb this size, if it had any tension on it at all, it would invariably capture the saw blade, which you would not want to happen. So now I'm going to see if I can pick up that end, sort of balance it, walk it over, and put it in the trailer. Okay, got it up. Now, you turn it and walk it over a little bit. I'm rolling it, rolling it, rolling it. All right. Okay. So it's in the trailer. Sliding. I had a little piece of aluminum wire down there on the front of the trailer, and that sheared when the trailer came up. So we'll have to replace that. Okay, at least that's straight in the trailers. Okay, I've got my pin back in now. I'll now see if I can push it in. And the whole vehicle forward. Okay. There. Got loaded up. In this case, I want to directionally fall a tree. Here you see I've cut a deep notch, and that notch is in the direction I want the tree to fall. And I've also mostly cut through the tree from the other side with a single horizontal cut. And what I'm going to do is to put a wedge on the uphill side away from the notch, and then use that wedge to control the fall of the tree so it doesn't scrape up other trees as it falls. Now, this is a dead tree, and while such directional cutting works very well indeed with fresh lumber, not necessarily so with the dead stuff. In short, these things can sometimes fall unexpectedly because they are weakened in spots that you cannot see. And so you proceed with a degree of caution. So we're going to set the wedge and see if we can follow the tree in the direction we want it to go.
starting to move, and I hear wood shearing every time I hit. So yeah, we're doing good. There it goes. All right. Just where I wanted it to go. And there you see it. It didn't touch any of the other trees. All right. That went like it was supposed to. Not all of them do. In this case, before I proceed, I'm going to have to use this winch to pull down a tree that I've cut. And the butt of it, as you will see, is on the ground. I was able to pull it off the stump with a lawn tractor. But the little lawn tractor just didn't have enough to move it. So I'm going to have to bring it the rest of the way down with the winch from my truck. Now I have a smaller cable on it, but I'm going to go ahead and hook up this larger cable since I have it available and pull this tree. And I'll let you see the tree as it comes down. You can see the two cables on it. In both of them, I've done a wrap of cable around the tree itself. And this will allow the cable to bite, and so it will not pull straight off the trunk of the tree since there's not a branch or anything down lower to actually catch the cable. So I'll go back and start taking up tension on it and bring it down. The upper end of it is hung up in another tree, so I may have to pull it, maybe as many as 10 feet before it'll actually fall. As you can see, we now have the tree down, and we have pulled it down in a line where it is actually clear of our road. So again, this is an example of directional tree felling, where you try to put your tree in the most convenient spot possible. So now I can go and guess what? Get another tree. What we were working on here is a dangerous tree, made even more so because I have it nearly cut through in two directions. Now normally I would put a wedge on the other side, but the footing is so terrible with a partially torn out stump there at the base and briars and other stuff, I really don't want to be standing next to that tree when I fell it. Consequently, what I have done is to attach the cable to the trunk about 5 feet up and strung it over a cut off branch of that oak tree so it will fall at an angle. It will fall this side of the oak tree, and I can put tension on it with, from my truck, of course, parked well away over to the left. So we're going to do that and see if we can get this thing down. Well, actually, it's pulling my vehicle forward, so I may have to wind up wedging it anyway. I do have a bit of a definite tilt on it, though. Let's see what we can do. As you saw, I have tension on a very large and dangerous tree, and there is wood attached yet between two saw cuts. So I have a target up on that tree, and I am going to sight in my flintlock. Boom! Yep. Needed to do it anyway, so why not have it remove a little useful wood and do some other good for me in the process? So I'm going to go ahead and load it up, and we'll see if we can bring down that tree with a little ballistic tree trimming. And fire. We have one hole in the target. Woof. We now have 7 shots in that target, and we're now about to shoot the 8th. And we've got a little rain, and I run out of powder. I found out my little horn that Bill Krantz made for me will hold 8 85 grain charges. So I'm going to put one just a little bit to the left of where that vertical string is through the 10 ring, and then move the target to the other side of the tree. And that one hit just exactly where I called it. So yeah, this gun is as good on as it can be had for close range shooting. It had been threatening all morning. Our target practice was interrupted by an afternoon thunderstorm. And now we're going to try some shots from the other side. Yeah, just enough for a squib load. Okay, that's all. That's 16 rounds. But we removed considerable wood. So I think now we're going to add a little pressure with the truck and see if now it will come. I believe it will. Mission accomplished. Well, it took 16 50 caliber rounds to get the tree cut through. But working at it with both sides, we did. And you can see some traces of the bullet strikes through here. Actually, this was rotten, but there was no way of knowing it. And we are recovering a few salvage balls. I see there's one of them. And another one here. That might be the last squib load. Matter of fact, I'd almost bet it was. And then I see another one on the ground beneath us. So ultimately we got it done. And you can see where this bullet went all the way through here. That's 4.5 inches of penetration through good solid pine. So that's good penetration, guys. That will kill your deer for you. The others on this side did a little better. Okay. So now we got a tree to cut up so I can get my truck out. So now we'll see if we can get our chainsaw started and get this log twisted around so I can get out of here with the truck and everything else, and we'll be good to go. Well, with the assistance of our flintlocks to the rescue, right here,
trusty Lyman, and in the rain, which fired 16 shots without me doing anything with the flint or cleaning it or even wiping it off. And that is a good flintlock. We have done our directional tree felling, and in this case using a cable to fold it this way instead of having to bring it directly at the truck, which would have hit the truck. And our saw did just fine. Got this cut up. We're going to load it up on our little cart and get the blazes out of here before the rain really starts coming down again. And we also incidentally cut another wedge, as you see. But now, this is Hovey Smith, reminding you to hunt what you eat and eat what you hunt. Be legal, be ethical, be safe, goodbye, God bless, and see you next time. Bye.
Even though the flintlock is freshly fired and as safe as a flintlock can be, it's not good practice to have it pointed right straight towards you. Now, I'm going to do other videos featuring the Lyman rifle, including one about the gun, sighting in, cleaning, target shooting to 300 yards, and game hunting. And I do plan to sell this gun at the end of the 2015-16 hunting season. Now, if you want it, here's an email to send an offer. Now, I am the author of Backyard Deer Hunting, Converting Deer to Dunner for Pennies Per Pound, Extreme Muzzleloading, and a series of ebooks on muzzleloading, including these two here. I also have business books in the Profit series, the newest of which is Ideas for New Businesses, and here is a little blurb about that one. For more information on my books, blogs, and more than 425 videos, you can go to my website, www.hoveysmith.com. Good hunting and good eating from the outdoors. Goodbye, and God bless.